So good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the CUCSA year-end work group presentations. We'll now hear from the Compensation Workgroup, and it is my pleasure to introduce to you Dre Graeser, the chair of the Compensation Workgroup.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. Well, those of us in the room anyway. My name is Andrea. I also go by Dre, and I work for UCSF Health. I'm a clinical application specialist there, and I have 14 years of service at UC. I wanted to introduce two members of our group that aren't here today, but contributed to this presentation. The first is Amy Fujitani. She's from UC Irvine. And we also wanted to acknowledge Nathan McCall, who helped us. He was the work group chair last year and helped us a lot with the information that we're going to present today. As well as I want to recognize Ken Fear, who's a CUCSA alum. So we're going to be diving in today, these 5 charges. You're going to hear a lot more about them soon, but we just wanted to set up kind of an agenda for what to expect next. And with that, I will hand it off to Desiree to introduce herself.
Good morning, Desiree Hennon, UC San Diego, 11 years of service. Continuing with the work of the 2022-23 CUCSA delegation, our work group asks what is the cost to both staff and UC as an employer when there is turnover? In other words, what are the costs of not retaining staff, hiring new staff, and what is the current data on staff turnover at UC? From 2020 to 2023, the average years of service across UC staff fell from 15.6 years to 13.6 years. In fiscal year 2022-23, the leading reason of career staff resignation was to accept another job. Why do staff leave for a new opportunity? According to Gallup, the top 3 reasons are greater work-life balance and well-being, significant increase of income or improved benefit packages, or allows me to do what I do best. The workgroup charges summarized in this presentation will connect how total compensation and its impact on staff retention address all top 3 reasons. Financial costs. Gallup estimates conservatively that the cost to replace a staff member ranges from 1/2 to 2 times the annual salary of an employee. As of May 2024, using a snapshot of annualized salary data, the average salary system-wide for policy-covered staff was $120,000, and the median salary system-wide was $105,000. Using that factor of 1/2 to 2 times salary and the 9.3% separation rate, which is slightly over 10,000 staff, this indicates the annual cost estimate of UC of $576 million to $2.641 billion to recruit and hire new staff. There are also unquantifiable costs. Gallup also summarized, losing your best people means losing your reliable winners, your consistent innovators, and your most efficient problem solvers. Internally, it breaks down the team morale. From lived experience as policy-covered staff whose coworkers have left unexpectedly, we experience other costs such as loss of long-term influential knowledge and skills, increased workload, increased stress, decreased job satisfaction, and other structural and cultural factors.
Good morning, everybody. Lou Gill, UC Irvine delegate, and I'm subbing in for Amy Fujitani. Last year, the Total Compensation Workgroup created an online guide to help staff understand total compensation at UC. They also developed a tool to explain UC earning statements, which complemented the CUCSA guide and the Fidelity and UCNet calculators. Wendy Welsh, the system-wide internal communications manager, showed interest in these resources for UCNet. During the meeting, she demoed the new UCNet site, and the workgroup provided feedback and recommendations on the information staff need regarding benefits, compensation, retirement, and financial planning. The workgroup suggests ongoing collaboration with internal communications to ensure staff receive accurate and relevant content. One of UC's strongest benefits is its retirement plans, but staff understanding is varied and complicated due to changes over the years. Our work group connected with the Executive Director of Retirement Program Services to review common staff questions, discuss new hire onboarding information, and plan a feedback session with CUCSA for the new retirement calculators. To enhance staff understanding, the workgroup chair met with a UC RASC retirement counselor and a Fidelity Workplace financial consultant. We recommend that CUCSA promotes existing tools on UC Raise and UCNet and continues to foster partnerships for staff access to financial and retirement planning resources.
Hi, everyone. Caitlin LeGros. I use she, her pronouns. I am a CUCSA delegate from UC Santa Barbara, and I have 7 years of service. There are a number of policies and situational factors that affect compensation for policy-covered staff, including employee knowledge of salary programs, California law changes, local cost of labor, available funding within departments, and salary increase opportunities. Our work group noticed that locations are inconsistent in how they advertise the full salary range and budgeted salary range of an open position. Inconsistent information can be misleading for applicants and can stunt salary growth from the start of an individual's UC career. With a variety of factors affecting staff salaries differently across title codes and locations, we understood that across-the-board increases for all policy-covered staff only furthered existing salary inequities, and without a dedicated pool of funds at each location distributed equitably among divisions, schools, and units to address equity review requests, those staff who are undercompensated continue to fall more behind their peers. When our report is available after this presentation, you'll be able to click on each of these topic links to learn more about each strategy and program that we researched. With our growing budget constraints within the UC, we wanted to better understand how salary plans are budgeted and paid for at each individual UC location. Our work group provided CUCSA delegates with a set of questions to ask their chief financial officers at their home locations. The questions focused on how individual locations manage salary increases for represented employees, how equity programs for policy-covered employees are funded, and the challenges locations face when informed of system-wide salary mandates. Although locations varied in the number of staff that they supported with core funds, all locations expressed concern about managing salary increases and funding equity increases locally. We also looked at policy-covered staff median and average salaries by location as of May 2024, compared to housing and urban development median incomes for 2024. The staff medians are shown in yellow and the average salaries are shown in blue. A&R, Merced, Riverside, and Santa Barbara have medians below the non-metropolitan county median income. Berkeley, Davis, Irvine, LA, Santa Cruz, and San Diego have medians below the metropolitan county median income. Our work group recommends additional analysis be completed with next year's data to investigate variance between PSS, MSP, and SMG groups, as well as compare to county data for where each location has its main campus or offices, with the exception of A&R because they don't have only one main campus. I will pass this back to Dre.
Thanks so much, Caitlin. So as Caitlin mentioned, there is additional analysis that's needed. So our group just started by looking at what is the average annualized pay rate by personnel code. There are 3 different types of personnel codes. One is the senior management group, that's SMG. There's professional and support staff, that's PSS. And the other code is MSP, which stands for management and senior professionals. So what we did is we took out the line that was for the senior management group, and we're only now looking at numbers for the MSP and PSS group. And again, this is an average, so I want to reiterate further analysis is needed. We may want to look at, say, the median, or there may be other factors contributing to this data. Another way to look at this is by doing something called a factor. So the factor would be the rate of the MSP annualized pay rate compared to the PSS annualized average pay rate. So in other words, for example, in this chart, at ANR, MSP average base pay is almost twice as much as PSS staff. However, if you compare that to UC San Diego Health, we see that the SMG average base pay is 10 times more than the average base pay at PSS staff. We reiterate again, further analysis is recommended for next year's group to explore reasons for how the data looks today. We'd also like to highlight there are a lot of programs that are working well. After the presentation, you'll have access to these links to learn more about each of these programs. We just wanted to highlight them for both leaders and staff to explore things that are going great at UC. And I'll now hand it off to Desiree.
So we conducted a case study to compare income potential over a 10-year period. We started January 2014 to May 2024 for policy covered staff versus represented staff. We started at a base rate of $40,000 per year or as close as we could get within a represented group to that number. Most of them were very close to $40,000 starting in January 2014. And although we hope that a staff member would get promoted, change jobs, move up the ranks within a 10-year period, for comparison purposes, we kept it as this person having the same job over that 10-year period. Over the 10-year period, policy covered staff are in last place for the total increase in income over the annualized period at a 30% increase. The next closest comparison was 7% higher, with the highest being nearly 67% increase over the evaluation period. This inequality is in even more stark contrast when you consider that several of the union contracts were either expired or being negotiated at the time, and even with no increases, and in some groups even up to 3 years of no increases, we can still see income gains as high as 52%, which is a 22% higher rate over the policy covered staff. So on the graphs there, you can see where the percentages are there on the left side, and then the income is on the right side, and the lowest ones on each one are the policy covered staff. We also met with Cain Diaz, Interim Associate Vice President and Director of Operating Budget at UCOP, to better understand the details of budget planning and decisions that are used, and that is included for clarity in our final report, which you can review after the presentation. Caitlin.
With all of our collected knowledge of the differences in compensation approach across locations, our work group wanted to understand the distribution of salary quartile data, since each policy covered employee's salary range is adjusted based on title code and UC location. This data is representative of all 50,390 policy covered staff's annualized salaries as of May 16th, 2024. Most locations have the majority of policy covered staff within the first and second quartile of the range, shown respectively in red and blue on this chart. Since the 50th percentile is considered market value for a given salary range, this means that the vast majority of policy covered staff at the UC are paid below market value for their work. This visual also demonstrates major differences in compensation across the locations, which could be attributed to a number of factors, or a combination of available funding, years of experience, but most importantly, location-specific compensation strategy. In exploring Charge 5, we identified a member of our group to be a part of the system-wide benefits survey work group. Due to the timing of the RFP process and other factors outside of CUCSA, the work group expanded upon this charge to focus on ways to create new areas for collaboration between staff assemblies and local UC leaders, and between CUCSA and system-wide leaders and staff. Recommendations to CUCSA emerged on how the work on total remuneration might take shape beyond fiscal year 23-24. Give it back to Desiree.
So these are our recommendations after our work this year to the regents. Number one, predictable compensation actions for policy covered staff. Number two, an equity pool at each location. And then number three, clear and transparent, consistent compensation policy. Our previously discussed case study on pay shows that policy covered staff are falling behind in salaries. Staff below the midpoint are below market rate and are most in need of predictable and annual base salary increases. Across multiple locations, unpredictability of policy covered staff compensation was cited as an issue for putting together each UC location budget. A more dynamic model is needed for across the board increases to be implemented to help policy covered staff keep pace with their represented colleagues. To implement increases in a one-dimensional model is short-sighted and is keeping our policy covered staff behind in all aspects of compensation.
So following up on Desiree, our other recommendation is that there be an equity pool at every location. There was variances between locations on how they accounted for and budgeted for equity increases. The establishing and funding a pool at each UC location would again support leaders in rotating staff through equity reviews that are responses to changes in market, and it would recognize specialized knowledge and skills only gained through years of UC service. I'll hand it back to Caitlin.
Our third recommendation is about clear and transparent and consistent compensation policy. Our work group's review of job postings, interview responses, and salary data revealed that each UC has different standards for advertised salary range, frequency of equity reviews, and general compensation philosophies. We recommend creating clear and consistent compensation guidelines to build trust between staff and supervisors, as well as to help retain and recruit talented staff and to demonstrate that staff are valued for their unique set of institutional knowledge, skills, and innovation at UC. Back to Dre.
We did also want to include some recommendations to you here in person, the CUCSA delegation, to be considered at a later time. And lastly, those of you joining us via video, we want to invite you to our CUCSA Town Hall. That'll be coming up on Tuesday, July 9th via Zoom at 11 a.m. And you'll also be able to see under this video where to register, and you can read our full work group report. And as always, you can visit CUCSA, CUCSA.ucla.edu for more information. And I also invite you to reach out to me directly. Again, my name is Andrea or Dre. I'm the work group chair for this year, and my email will be posted.